Hi, Terrence. Dr. Jester here. I want to go over your first portfolio assignment, which is Judaism. And I want to talk to you about that for just a little bit. So, as we evaluate the document and go to the citation report, one of the things that is a problem, the quoted text percentages is 30%. Reading through your document, I really assumed it would be a lot higher than that because you're basically not providing a lot of original material, you're quoting a lot. So, for example, this is your background history of the development of Judaism. So, you've got this sentence here that's yours. The rest of this is a quote from Scripture, and then another statement that's brief that just reiterates the Scripture, a block quote. Then you go into the next section. So none of this hardly at all is original material to you. So you're letting your citation make your argument. You're doing the same thing here. You have one brief sentence, and then you jump to a quote. You have a quote here to make your argument. Basically, the paper has significant quotations in it. What that means, as far as Lopes Wright is concerned, it means that there's not a lot of originality in your paper. You're using Scripture and you're using your sources to make your argument. And you can't do that. Basically, what that becomes then is another form of plagiarism, unfortunately. You're not plagiarizing, of course, you're quoting the sources, but when you let the sources do all the talking, when you let the Bible do all the talking for you, you're not interacting with a lot of your own ideas, then that basically is a way of just borrowing someone else's ideas to throw in there as your own when you're not making your own argument. You're allowing someone else to do that for you. So too many quotes. Officially, this is setting at 30%, so I'm not going to require a rewrite. If you had one more quotation, it would have bumped the percentage up. But my main concern here is there's not much original material here. When you do throw in some information, it's basic. For instance, fundamental practices of Judaism. Basically, you got bar mitzvah in the second sentence and other things such as marriage in the second sentence. You're not telling me a lot about that. How does Judaism view God or ultimate reality? You quote from Scripture here, Genesis 1:1, and then another quote here. But again, you're not telling me anything that you believe and based upon what you're studying. So instead of quoting the Scripture text, just reference it. Say, the Bible talks about God in the beginning. Jews believe that God was there as creator in the beginning. And you really need to expand that analysis. You're not providing a whole lot. You're just not telling your readers a whole lot of information about this belief. So, for example, how does Judaism view the destiny of creation, humanity, and the individual? Let me undo what I just did. So, Judaism views creation as headed toward redemption through the Messiah. Instead of repeating the questions here, discuss that in a couple of paragraphs and analyze it. Don't quote material, just analyze it. Keep your quotations to a minimum. So that's the content. Content has issues because it's not original to you, it's mostly quotations. Another problem here is formatting. So if we look at this paper, you've got large blocks of space between paragraphs and elements. So you've got a heading here, and believe me, I do like headings, but instead of repeating the assignment, just give a brief heading, like history of Jewish or Judaism's development. Here, subgroups, that's perfectly fine. Principal text, that's fine. You don't really go into that at all, nor major beliefs. That's really insufficient information there. But all of this, too much spacing, you should have a single space between elements instead of, it looks like your paper's double spaced, so that's two double spaces in there that does not need to be there. So you need to shore up that. Your bibliography down here, it looks like a good bibliography with some decent sources, but that needs to be on its own separate page. You don't have that on the same page as your concluding text. Looking at any other elements, if you're going to quote from the subsequent source, so a subsequent quotation from the same source. Again, let me reconnect what I was doing there. That should be Ibid. You'll need to look in the Turabian style guide that will explain all that. So if it's from the same source and a subsequent quote, that needs to list Ibid. Everything else is okay, but really some content issues and then some problems with spacing. One thing I will also reiterate, if you quote too much and if it goes over 30%, it does require revision. So you need to keep quotation percentages down to 20% and make your similarity scores 20% or below. All right, take care.